Welcome to my podcast, All Things Agriculture. I'm your host, Eric Carey, and thank you for tuning in. On this podcast, get to know those who work in agriculture on a daily basis. Find out what they do, the challenges and opportunities they face, and what they think the future holds for agriculture. You'll also have a chance to hear what they do for fun when they aren't working hard to feed the world. If you're watching on YouTube, please consider subscribing to my channel and leaving a thumbs up and a comment below. If you prefer the audio version, you can listen for free on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, and Radio Public. And if you'd like to get in contact with me, please email me at allthingsagr@gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the episode. Hi everyone, welcome back to All Things Agriculture Podcast. I am joined here with Niko Kochendoerfer. I'm going to screw it up. You might Why don't you just go ahead and say it so I don't butcher it.
It's Niko Kochendoerfer.
Okay, yeah,
exactly.
I'm not even going to try.
You're fine.
I had it down earlier, but then I've been screwing around with this thing to get it to work, and it kind
That's okay.
left my brain.
You're in good company, Eric.
Not the first time that's happened.
Not the first time.
So thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Definitely anytime. I guess we'll jump right into it. So why don't you, talk a little bit about where you're from and
Sure.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Germany and lived there until 2014. And I'm a city kid, right? Grew up in a city. I don't think I saw a sheep up close and personal until I was 19 years old, right? So I was after high school, supposed to go to university to become a lawyer or a doctor.
That was what you originally had planned.
Or what my parents sort of had planned, what I had planned as well, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do. Not exactly what was expected of me, right? But what sort of everyone thought was going to happen with my future, my career. And then after high school, I took a gap year, traveled a bunch, traveled around Europe with friends, etc. And then got invited by a friend to visit a sheep farm, right? So maybe I'm going to just explain a little bit in Germany. If you don't go to university or to college, right, you have the opportunity to do a apprenticeship. It's a different type of education. The way it works is you come out of school and you enter a 3-year program where you have a 1/3 classroom-based, 2/3 on-farm, in-company, whatever, in firms kind of education, right? So you learn a certain craft, could be plumbing, could be to become an electrician, a salesperson, but also agricultural things, right? Like, for example, dairy farming, or in my case, sheep farming. So a friend of mine called me and said, hey, I just started an apprenticeship as a sheep herder. Come and visit, right? And so I was left with really ominous descriptions. I was like, okay, here's the address of this barn, which is in the middle of nowhere. Meet me there on this Saturday in late summer at noon. We'll be there. So I drive there and I get out of my car and walk up to that barn, and it's like literally deserted. So there's no one except me and this barn. And the barn was full with like 500, maybe 600 ewes, and they were lambing. So I walk in again. Never really seen a sheep up close and personal. And I walk up to this pen, and there was this ewe, and she gave birth to twins, like right in front of me, right? So I watched this happen, and like my mind just blew. I was like,
first time you've ever seen
anything like that, right? Like never.
That's a good intro.
Yeah, exactly. And like something in me just sort of clicked and shifted. And for the first time in my life, I knew just exactly what I wanted to do, right? 19 years old, I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to see every day of my life.
It was just like that.
Just like that. Like, literally just like that. And I had, like, during my gap year, sort of, struggled with, hey, what do I want to do? Do I really want to be a lawyer, a doctor, or I don't know, study political sciences or whatnot, so it took me like a little bit to figure out what I wanted. But then when I stood in this barn, it was clear. It was like 100% clear, right? And then 2 weeks later, I had a job as a apprentice in sheep farming. Yeah. So that was sort of like the start with me in agriculture, or that's how it all started, right? So 2 weeks later, I started at this cooperative farm in Eastern Germany. So 6,000 acres, give or take, 3,000 sheep, I think 850 dairy cows, and a cash crop, a little bit, and then lots of corn and silage production. And they took me on as an apprentice, and I worked in the sheep barn there for 3 years. And at the same time, so again, it's 2/3 farm-based and then 1/3 school. So I went to school for, I don't know, a third of that time practically, right? And it's a pretty intense education. You learn everything about it, right? You learn how breeding decision, genetics, nutrition, processing, environmental regulations, et cetera, right? In school.
I think that's being able to, being, the 1/3, 2/3, you learn that knowledge in the classroom and you immediately go out and use it. Where I know, I was in college, you learn it all, but it's not like most of the times, some people they commute, they work at home. Yeah. You aren't going home and applying that knowledge, within a couple of hours. So it doesn't sink in, I think, the way that does, how you did it.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's why, so that part of the German education system is actually really well done, right? To allow young people to really learn their trade and pick up quite some proficiency actually in what they're doing. Yeah. And so when I was on farm, it was a pastorally kept sheep flock, right? Meaning we actually herded those sheep throughout the Eastern German countryside. What that means is that they were grazing between late April and late October, November, something like that. So they were outside grazing throughout the entire grazing season, right? But grazed without fences. Okay, so the herder has 3 dogs, sometimes 4 dogs, depends on the skill level of the dogs and sort of the difficulty of the terrain, maybe. And you use your dogs, German Shepherds, as living fences to navigate the sheep flock through the countryside.
So these were thousands of sheep.
Thousands of sheep, yeah. So
and just 3-4 dogs can handle
yes, that. Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
So my days starting in the second year looked like this. You drive up to your flock in the morning, 9 o'clock, sometimes 10 o'clock, depending on chores at the barn. The drives were around maybe 20 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes, depending on where the pastures and the grasslands were located, right? And then you get there, you pick them up out of a corral. So they sleep in electronetting corrals every night. So you pick them up from there and you just spend the entire day with them on pasture, moving them from one piece of pasture to the next. So as you can imagine, there's quite a lot of dog training involved in that, right? So like with your 3 dogs, you usually have one that is fully trained, one that's maybe 50%, and one that's fresh, right? And together, these 3 dogs, if they listen to you the way they should, if you did a good job training them, will navigate these sheep. And maybe I should also mention that Germany looks a little bit different than, real rural pieces of the United States. So it's quite a lot smaller, of course, than the US. I think Germany is about the size of Montana, but has 80 million inhabitants.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in one area. Yeah,
exactly. So
is it just small villages kind of that you're moving through?
Exactly.
What's the terrain? Is it hilly, mountainous? Like what kind of terrain were you dealing with?
So that particular farm, definitely hilly. So rolling hills up to a little bit mountainous. And definitely lots of villages. So you navigate people's vegetable gardens.
Oh.
You navigate cornfields, and
They can probably turn hellish real quick. If
it can. Yeah.
So are you on horseback or are you just walking?
No, you walk.
Walking, okay. It's not
walk.
it's not terribly far than that. You at least at 20, 45 minutes to get them there one way.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. So sometimes you have to sort of like switch areas, right? So you move them from one village to the next village, and then it could be that you walk for like 2 hours to get them there with them together, right? But usually, once you've arrived at that sort of like new patch of consecutive pastures, there's not a lot of walking. You just basically move them from one piece of the pasture to the next piece, right?
And they naturally herd as a
Yes.
group, so it's just a matter of keeping. They aren't going to go astray. It's just a matter of keeping those dogs, like you said, being in a fence.
Yeah, exactly.
So the green dogs, the new dogs, they're learning then from their older or more trained.
Yeah, ideally.
Okay.
Ideally, yes. It depends on the dog, right? There's different characters. Sometimes they're a little bit more whoa than go. And sometimes it's the opposite, right? So you either have to encourage them, maybe sometimes even run with them, show them that it's fun to bite a goat, right? So that they sort of catch on and figure out that it's not just a job, it's also something that they really enjoy. And with other dogs who are maybe a little bit more energetic, you'll have to sort of reprimand them and tell them, hey, don't take it too far, don't run too fast, etc., etc. But as it is with all working animals, the skill is sort of bred into them, it's in their genes. So it's pretty straightforward if you know what you're doing to get them to pick up the work.
Yeah, isn't it typically like a trained dog is only as good as the person who's training them?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And just kind of jumping ahead, but you and Lewis have 2 dogs with your sheep now, don't you?
Yes, we do, but they're not, they're guardian dogs.
Okay.
So they protect the sheep from coyotes or any other type of predator. You cannot teach them, really. They operate very independently from humans. So getting Hetty or Zach to come to me, it's not quite easy, right? Because they're not teachable, not trainable. Their job is to live with the sheep flock 24/7, and actually to some extent think that they're sheep themselves, right?
They're huge too. That's the funny. They're gigantic animals.
Yes, and they're white, so they kind of you could from afar definitely you could confuse them for sheep, and they actually also get raised in sheep flocks. So when they're puppies, you just put them in with the sheep, and they just get socialized like sheep, right? Yeah.
It's so funny. Such a not vicious isn't a good word, but such an aggressive, protective animal is friendly to the sheep, because those things can take, like you said, they take down a coyote, no issue.
No issue.
Extremely powerful.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And like they pick out birds out of the sky if they get to them.
Yeah, didn't it? I think Lewis told me one of them took a hawk, or did it go? It went after some bird. It jumped in the air and actually plucked it out of the air.
Plucked it out of the air. Yeah, that was Zach.
Oh my Lord.
They're vicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, they're just doing their job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but again, like very different from herding dogs. They're not learning this from humans. It's just what they were bred to do in their genes, and they just know what to do automatically and don't have to be taught by humans. Yeah. And also, so German sheep herding dogs, very different from border collies. The main difference is that the job of a border collie is to sort of gather a flock and then push the flock, right? So when they move the sheep, they're always behind them, pushing them forwards. And these German shepherds, their job is to, again, be a fence, right? Like always be around the flock and sort of keep the flock where the handler says the flock should be at that point, right? And maybe just to give you an example, if you're herding sheep next to a cornfield, then the dog would run right in between the space between the cornfield and the pasture, right? And just sort of adopt the border of the cornfield.
And so if that dog sees, do they basically, you set them up and they each have
exactly.
And then they make like a square or triangle, and they each have a side. And
Yeah.
so if they see them strain, will they run down and kind of pluck at them, get them back, and just
bite them?
It's just a game for
them.
them.
It's a game. It's a total game. I mean, they take it very seriously, right? Like it's their job. It's what they do, and they live for it. But it's fun too.
Yeah.
Right? So, like one of my dogs, he used to wait until goats, and just goats. So maybe as an explanation, goats, they scream louder than sheep do. And it sounds a little bit more dramatic when a dog bites a goat than when a dog bites a sheep.
Okay.
Right. So, and that dog, he knew how fun it was to bite a goat. Right. So he would wait, like calculated wait until, 3 or 4 or 5 goats would, eat across the border that he had set. And he would just lay there and watch them. And then when, when they finally, ate across the border, he would like run to them and grab the first one and like really nip it in the butt, right? And he would enjoy so much how they screamed. It's really funny to watch. And also, like funny to understand that he actually knew what he was doing. Like he wouldn't wait for sheep to eat across that border.
He knew the reaction.
Yeah, exactly.
He wanted, wow. I've heard the video. I'm sure it's like the videos on YouTube. You type in goat screaming. It's like
exactly,
sounds like a person yelling.
Yeah, exactly. It's very funny. And I mean, they don't harm them, right?
Yeah. They're just giving them a little nip.
Exactly.
We had border collies growing up on our farm when for the grazing.
Yep.
And they would the male. We had a male and a female, and the male was more aggressive, and he would at times would try to run up, and he would just nip like the backs of their legs, and he would try to make them stop, but it was a game, and once in a while the cow would catch him in the head, make him rethink his strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's the same with those dogs as well, right? When they're young, they always test what they can get away with, and sure, it happens with a lot of young dogs that they just chase away one sheep, away from the flock, and they just like run it, and then you just have to reprimand and let them know this is not the way we do this, and and you just have to like gear. Maybe that's a good way to put it. Gear their energy towards the job, right? So that they can let it all out, be energetic and be crazy, but do a good job while at it, right? Yeah, that's the job of the trainer, then of course. Yep.
All right. So so you were there at that farm for.
That was 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so I finished that apprenticeship, got my certification, and then afterwards decided to go to undergrad and go to college, and I did that at a German agricultural university, and I got a Bachelor of Engineering degree in agriculture. And so that was also, it was a good experience. Learned a lot. Finished college, and then afterwards I got hired to manage a 350 cow dairy, actually. So a Holstein cow dairy, and I did that for a little over a year, but realized throughout the process that it was not exactly what I wanted to do, right? It wasn't the job that I would want, and that I really, loved working with sheep more than with cows. And because of that, then decided to relocate to Ithaca and work towards my PhD at Cornell in the animal science department, and specifically small ruminant management and nutrition. Exactly. And so obviously I learned a lot, right? Milking cows and making breeding decisions and ration balancing, et cetera, managing. I think our team was 10 people, feeders and milkers. And it was really interesting to work in a old GDR facility, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you know these blueprints.
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah, they're tough, very tough.
Yeah, very, very tough. And then specifically because cows obviously grew in mature size, right?
Yeah.
So, problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They aren't built for.
They are not built for cows.
Not Holsteins, that's for darn sure.
Yeah, exactly. So that maybe also that was a big contributing factor. Animal welfare was just not up to par, and that made it really hard to enjoy the work there. And yeah. So not to say that I don't like cows, because I really love cows. I just
not quite the experience then with sheep.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how did you did you know about Cornell like when you're over in Germany? Did you hear a lot about it, or was it just kind of a
No, nothing at all actually. I mean, obviously, you know, everyone knows like the other Ivies, Harvard, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But Cornell was sort of not on my radar. But my best friend Teresa from Germany, she got her JSD degree in Ithaca at Cornell. That's, I don't know, a law degree.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what it stands for. Yeah, so she was in Ithaca, and when I put in my notice at the cow dairy, she invited me. She was like, "Well, you know, just come by, spend some time there," and I did. So I traveled to Ithaca and looked into opportunities there because I really like Cornell. Obviously, visited the campus and visited a couple of labs and got to know professors and, you know, sort of tried to figure out what's next for me. Like, what will I do next? And then also met Mike Toney, my PhD advisor. And he offered me at some point then to start a PhD at Cornell in small ruminant and management and nutrition. Exactly. So it all came about one visit to a very good friend, and I think I moved 6 months later.
Wow.
Yep.
That's well, when you know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like I never regretted that decision at all. I mean, obviously, especially in times of Corona, right? It's hard to be away from family. It's hard not to live in the same country, right? So there is some sort of hardship definitely involved, but I never regretted that decision, and will spend my life here.
Yeah.
And not go back to Germany.
Wow. Yeah, that's, I mean, it's one thing to be like, oh, I'm going to go out of state, like if you're in the U.S., but it's another thing to be like, I'm going to leave my home country and go to a totally different place. And that's...
Well, so, okay, we talked about this already, right? Germany is fairly small for a high number of inhabitants. So there's not as much space there as you'd find here. Here you can go for a long time between two villages, right? And you see like a farm here and a farm there. In Germany, especially where I grew up in Bavaria, it takes you 30, 45 seconds to get from one village to the other, right? So there's no indefinite land resource available, right? And it just doesn't look as wild and as pretty as it does here. And the other part to that is that it's obviously very hard to start farming if you want to do that as a farm owner, because there's no land available.
Okay.
Right? So there's not as much opportunity, which also contributes to me deciding to stay here.
Okay.
Basically. Yeah.
So you're at Cornell, and now is your research, you're still doing research. You've been doing, because I remember you had done a milking study.
Yeah.
I guess explain kind of what some of your studies have been that you've done. If you can go into detail, I don't know how much, or if you haven't published it yet, or
no. Oh yeah.
Working on that.
Working on that. Yeah. No, actually, I'm getting there. I'm really getting there. I'm a little late, maybe, but yeah, getting there. So during my PhD, I milked sheep for 4 years.
From cows to sheep.
Yeah, exactly. At least it's sheep, right? Well, I don't know. So we looked into diets and different management strategies for milking sheep in short and frequent lactations year round, right? So maybe a little bit of background. Dairy sheep, the dairy sheep industry is a fairly seasonal industry. Why? Because most of the dairy sheep breeds that are available in the world are seasonally polyestrous. What does that mean? It means that they come into heat in fall and then have their lambs in spring. And it's very hard to breed sheep out of season. And out of season means in the increasing daylight period. So spring and summer, right? So The gestation period of a sheep is 150 days. So or 145 days, I should say. And if you want to have lambs year round, you need sheep that reliably can breed out of season and in spring and early summer. And these breeds are meat sheep breeds, right? So for example, the Dorset or the Finn sheep, that are meat breeds, they can do that. They can breed year round, but they're not dairy breeds. So our idea, that actually worked really, really well, was to sort of have a dual purpose kind of system where we use these meat breeds and we bred them for 5 lambing periods per year and then milked them. So we milked meat sheep, right? So we had 5 lactation periods per year that were shorter than the usual dairy sheep lactation period, but we were able to generate milk year round. And actually we were really successful with that.
So you're able to milk a group, have a pregnant group, and it was just
one after the
kept
other.
It consistent year round.
Exactly.
And what was compared to a tip-top milking sheep, like production-wise, is there a big difference or?
There is some sort of difference, yeah. I mean, there is difference, yeah. If you go to France and you look at like a really, high genetic merit Lacan sheep operation, they have like, I don't know, 2 kilos per day consistently for like 190 days or something, like really high milk production. So we had, I think, 1.5 kilos per day throughout the year, which is less, definitely less, but dual purpose, right? We had a lot of lambs. Yeah. I think we had 3.9 lambs per ewe per year. Yeah.
Wow.
On an accelerated. Yeah. So exactly. Wow. Right. So the depends, of course, how you market the product. Of course, if you make really high priced sheep milk cheese, you're not going to be able to make up the difference with your lambs that you sell at a local auction for $160 per head, right? Obviously, because sheep milk is really expensive. But if you're interested as a producer to have a year-round market, right? Like a market that asks of you to have product on the shelves year-round, you can't do that with a regular traditional dairy breed. Because you need milk year-round, right? So that will be an opportunity to just put up with the lower milk yields, but be able to offer product year-round, fresh product, not frozen milk.
Yeah, because you can freeze the sheep milk too.
Yeah, but if you make like some sort of artisanal cheese and you work with frozen milk, your cheesemaker is gonna tell you it's not the same.
Okay, yeah.
Right, so there's like flavor profile differences for sure.
What's like the component consistency of sheep milk in terms of like protein, fat? Is it really heavy in fat, or do you not even really look at that when you're?
No, we did a bunch of infrared analysis to milk component analysis, fatty acid analysis. So it's both higher. So just to give you an idea, I think for cows it's 12% solids, right?
Yeah. When you take in protein, fat and other solids,
minerals, 12%. So for sheep, it's like 18-19%. So they're quite a lot higher. So up to 6% protein maybe, and up to 7% fat.
Wow.
So yeah, it's very rich.
Do you actually see with the dairy sheep, is that component percentage comparable, or do you have, because you have actually less of a volume, the component percentage is higher, the dilution factor?
Exactly, yeah. So that would be maybe, for someone else, research ideas to take my work further and look at actually differences in product. Like what kind of different products can I make with that dual purpose meat sheep milk that I maybe, cannot make as well with a more diluted, less solids, dairy sheep milk, right? So, but we haven't done that. We haven't looked into that. But definitely what you said is true, right? Okay. Less milk yield, higher solids.
Yeah, kind of like when Andrew's on, like you do research and the next person keeps taking and they keep pushing it along to.
Yep. Exactly.
Oh, that's pretty neat. And are you still doing any sort of like Cornell research, or are you still working with sheep, right?
So I graduated with my PhD, or received my PhD, in May 2020.
Congratulations.
So last year, thank you. It was, I'll never forget writing my thesis, my dissertation. Corona, COVID, here, the lockdown, they just had started.
When you started doing that.
Yeah. So I started really writing in late January. And and I wrote throughout the entire early first lockdown.
Well,
it was crazy.
I guess you can't really do a whole heck of a lot else, so it gave you a good,
Yeah.
How long was it? How many pages? It's usually pretty.
I think 180, maybe, something. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It took quite a while, but it was kind of nice, just being home, just writing 10 hours per day. I'm still kind of convinced that without the lockdown, I probably wouldn't have made it in time. I would have had to add another semester. I'm not sure. Who knows, right? But I'm convinced it helped.
Yeah, when you can't do anything else, it's kind of like it forces you into it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I graduated last May. And then right after that, started as a postdoctoral researcher in the same lab, same advisor, or same PI, same boss. And I now currently lead a grazing study. So we have 150 sheep that graze a community-sized solar farm next to campus, Cascadilla Community Solar Project, 54 acres of that. And I'm actually quite proud of that because I managed to get a lot of people to collaborate, right? So often in the animal sciences, we operate in very, we collaborate with veterinary sciences, right? And then maybe with other animal scientists. But and that's obviously not always true, but very often it's just restricted to animal sciences, right? And so in that grazing study, we're working together with 4 other Cornell labs. 2 are in entomology and 2 in soil and crop sciences. So we're looking into grazing densities, basically. I don't know. Do you want to hear about it?
Okay. Yeah, throw it at me. Yeah.
So we're looking at the impact of grazing density, right, in sheep per acre on soil carbon sequestration, hot topic right now, forage diversity, what kind of plants are growing, are they native, are they annuals, perennials, etc., and how does grazing affect that composition, or grazing density affect that composition. We're also looking at pollinator habitat, right? So what kind of grazing density does support healthy flowering habitat for bees? And then also the 4th lab works on ladybugs. So ladybugs are predatory insects, so they eat pests.
Mm-hmm.
So presumably if you have a very healthy ladybug population next to a field that has a problem with a certain pest, and you propagate that ladybug habitat, you could achieve that they, after grazing, migrate to that field, right? Because the sheep would take away their habitat because they eat it all, and then they migrate to the field and eat the pests there. So you could potentially use sheep to locate your pest suppressing insects to where you want to have them. And that's sort of what we're doing there. So we have 6 different grazing densities, or 5 grazing densities and 1 mode control plot. We're just tracking all of these variables throughout the grazing season. And it's been actually really interesting. I learned a lot.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like with us with our grazing of cows. It's always that, cows per acre grazing. How many cows, how far should you take the forage down? And it's kind of a, you ask 5 different people and they'll each give you a different answer. And so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you ever look at did you have anyone look at the compaction of the sheep? I guess they're so light compared to a cow, but still they got the little hooves. There's a lot of pounds per square inch. Do you look at that at all?
Yeah. So we take bulk densities. So exactly, compaction, or how dense is the soil and does it change among the different grazing densities. Funny story. So sheep are actually really good for erosion prevention, right? So in Germany, at the Baltic Sea and the North Sea, there's these dikes, right? These sand dunes, sand hills, they're called dikes, that sort of prevent the water from coming inland. Do you know what I mean? It's just like
yeah. It's a natural,
Exactly.
Yep, I know what you mean.
And so it's sand, right? They're super sandy. So what they're trying to do is obviously keep them compacted so that they don't erode away, because then they wouldn't be able to prevent the water from coming inland, right? So they use sheep to graze those, because the sheep feet, they don't harm the sod. They just gently compact it, and it works really well. So
keeps it there. Yeah.
Exactly. It keeps it there. Yeah. Preventing erosion. I like that story. Sheep are great for everything, really. You name it, and I'm gonna.
Sheep can do it.
Exactly. Yeah, they can.
I've always thought sheep were, compared to cows, it's, if a cow goes down, she falls, slips, you need to use a skid steer or something to, set her up, where a sheep, if they're small enough, you can just pick them up and
yeah, exactly.
move them wherever you need to.
Yeah, that's a huge point. That was one of the things too, when I managed that cow dairy. I always felt so, I don't know, they had me breed the heifers.
Oh, that's a fun job.
Exactly. And I always felt like I couldn't really, stand a chance.
Run over you. Yeah.
And then in that old, Eastern German barn, they like literally have steel walls, right? So you have your feed alley, and then behind the feed alley, you have steel walls with like steel gates that sort of gate off the part of the barn where the beds are, right? So you can like trap them in the feed alley, or you can trap them in the bed area, right? So and during like finding heifers and heat, they were all in the feed alley. So they were like all really close together. And there was just like these metal walls, right? so constantly, it's like, okay, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Am I going to like jump up this metal wall and like hop out of it was impossible. I felt really trapped. It was kind of scary.
Yeah. Poorly
very
designed.
Poorly designed. I mean, metal walls with sliding gates and I don't know. Who knows?
Sounds like a disaster.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a disaster.
All the newer dairies in Germany are basically look just like here. Yeah. And even robotics. That's the one thing I'm always amazed about. You go to Germany and it's like the robotics is.
Yeah. Oh, you've been there, right?
Yeah. I went on the Cornell dairy trip.
Yeah, exactly. Where did you go?
We were in the eastern part of Germany because we saw the GDR, the old. We went to an old GDR facility, and then we went to the new modern, a lot of robots, robotic milkers, feed pusher-uppers. One had a better, I wasn't quite sold on that one. Had tracks up in the rafters, and they could fill it. They had some way to fill it. It was, so it was like 10, 12 feet in the air, and it ran on tracks, and it had a little, I'm trying to think, like almost like, on the back of a snow plow with the sand, with the salt, same sort of thing. It would sprinkle. And I asked them, well, what happens if the cow doesn't get up? And it'll just put the bedding on top of her, I guess. It wasn't, I think I wasn't quite sold on that.
Does it get dusty?
I don't know.
Did you?
So they were going to run it. It was a winter day. We were there in January. It was probably like 30, 35 degrees. A thing wouldn't start.
Yeah, of course.
Like it won't start. Like, oh, okay. We want to see it work. We're like, wow, we've never seen one of these, and it wouldn't start. But we went to like Berlin. Saw the Berlin. Oh, I loved it. Yeah. So much fun.
Yeah. Berlin's
awesome
great.
place. Yeah. Beautiful. Seeing the history there's unbelievable. That's what's so cool about it.
That's right. Yeah. So when we drive to Vermont to visit Lewis's parents, right? They know so much about history. They're so well versed in that area. But so then they ask me questions about a certain part of history, maybe like 300-400 years back, and I just don't know because it's so rich, right? Like you can like spend years and years and years studying the last 100 years because so much happened there. Right?
Yeah, you've been around a lot longer than we have. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm always like embarrassed, having to say I don't know. I'm sorry. I can't tell you. I always feel a little ignorant, but it's okay. Yeah.
Well,
there's a lot of history.
You guys, your history goes back a long ways compared to. I think you probably asked the average American what happened 250 years ago. They'd say, I don't know either. So
that's right.
Unfortunately.
That's right. Yeah.
But so yeah, I guess what we were talking about, we got off on a little bit of a tangent, but
right. Grazing,
yeah. So this is just a solar site. So the sheep, you let them out, and you actually take that chunk and you break it up into partitions, and you're daily moving them.
Do. Not daily. We have we picked 10 days as our grazing rotation length, with 40 days rest period in between. So every 10 days we move them, and we have so that 54-acre solar site is divided into 5 individually fenced arrays. So we have 5 experimental blocks. So we move them from block 1, 10 days, to block 2, 10 days, 3, 10 days, 4, 10 days, 5, 10 days, and then back to 1. So we literally like go in a circle, right? So 10 days in each compartment and 40 days rest period in between. And within each individually fenced arrays, we have our 6 grazing densities fenced off with electric fencing, electric netting, and they stay in their assigned groups so that we can really, really hammer down and track the impact the specific density has.
So how many years is this going to be a multi-year process where you look at what's the impact over, 5 years or whatever and see?
Exactly.
And this is basically trying to figure out, because obviously solar is becoming bigger and bigger in New York, and there's more solar sites to graze. So this is kind of trying to find that nice, what's the word?
Maybe best practice
management.
Best management practices
for grazing solar.
Yeah, so I would say that it's not only going to be applicable for solar, but also for grazing in general, sheep grazing in general. So we're hoping to just, derive a couple of conclusions, how you can actually impact your either soil or insect parameters with grazing densities. So not just for solar, but grazing in the Northeast in general. Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, obviously, it's a solar study, so the solar industry is going to look to that in the future and look to these results to, plan for their operations, plan for their sites. But my hope is that we'll get a little bit of a better idea generally what grazing does to our soils here in the Northeast.
Are there any engineers or anything working with this in terms of how can a solar company want to design solar arrays so it's more, maybe I guess they aren't looking at that, the benefit. They just want the sheep to come in and keep it cleaned down. I guess they don't really care about much. Like they care about your research, but it's not like it's going to change anything they do.
So like the great thing. So first off, there's a lot of, co-location right now is a hot topic. So everyone in New York or the Northeast thinks about how can we co-locate solar and agriculture? What can we do, right? So there's all sorts of ideas. There's like vegetables and grains and mushrooms, et cetera, right? The great thing about sheep is that you don't have to do much. You don't have to plan for them. You don't have to, as a solar developer, you don't have to design your site in a particular way to make it work with sheep, right? As long as there's a fence, which they are legally required to have, and as long as the fence sort of is flush with the ground, that no predators can go underneath it, the sheep are golden, right? You can just bring them in, you can rotationally graze them there. What's nice is if the developer decides to put a well in, right? So that's like courtesy. But how cheap is that over the lifetime of the solar site, right? I mean, if you break down the cost for a well, let's say, I don't know, maybe up to $15,000, right? And that's on the higher end, depending on, I guess, where the water is and how far down you have to drill, but it's not much on a 25-year span, right? So that's the only thing that the solar developer could do as like a courtesy. Everything else is already there. As I said, a fence.
So if there isn't that well, you just have to truck in water.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
Is it becoming more common that they're putting in wells, or is it kind of they can truck it in, we'll let them do that?
So it depends on the developer. So a lot of them, they have many sites in New York or the Northeast, right? Not just one, but they have like maybe 7. And when they have good experiences having one of those sites grazed and it's actually working and it costs them less than the traditional management, as in having a landscaper come in and do weed whacking and mowing, right? So if it's cost effective for them to use sheep, and then they're, developing or planning for another 3 solar sites, they may be inclined to put in a well in on their next sites, because they know we definitely want to have sheep graze the site and not a landscaper mow it, right? And then they'll put in wells. So the answer is it depends on the company.
But the ones who are really, they can see it on paper, it's a no-brainer. Like you said, when you dump in millions of dollars into it, 15 grand on top of it's kind of a spit in the bucket.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, you kind of, I don't know if you want to get into what you and Lewis are doing or at all, or go.
Sure.
I mean, that's right up your alley. So
maybe I'll keep it a little bit more general and to speak to like the solar grazing industry and how maybe in the future it could affect the profile of New York State agriculture, right? So because I just recently wrote a paper about that, a report, and sort of calculated the maximum impact that sheep could have when all of the solar sites that will go into New York State get grazed, right? Does that make sense? So we looked at the I think New York State regulation. I think it's, what is it? 100% renewable by 2030. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think it's 75 or 100 by 2030. I know it's a date.
Maybe it's 75. Who knows, right? But what would need to go in is about 129,000 acres of solar panels, and that's max, right? And many people think that it won't even come to that. Many people think it's going to stop at like 80,000 acres. And so let's say we would put in 130,000 acres of solar in New York State. Then we could grow the sheep flock in New York State to about 300,000 sheep, right? That's, I think, 20% growth or something. Right now it's more than that. Right now we're at 90,000 sheep in New York State, right? Yeah. So we could go up to 300,000.
So basically triple the sheep herd size.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know where the 20% came from, but that's sort of the max, right? This is where it would end. And if you think about it, if you put that in context, it's not much, right? It's first off, it's not much land. And secondly, it's also not many sheep. So it is an exciting topic, obviously, for the sheep industry, because there's a lot of additional money coming in through these vegetation grazing contracts that you enter when you graze a solar site. So what you do is you get paid for your grazing services, right? So you get up to $500 per acre, maybe from the solar developer to graze that site with your sheep, right? So there's a lot of additional income coming. So it's an exciting opportunity, especially when you're a young farmer and you want to get into sheep farming. You have cash flow that will allow you to, buy more sheep or rent a barn, eventually build a barn, etc. Right? So it's exciting, but it's not overwhelming, maybe.
Yeah, I guess you don't have to own the land as long as you can get the leases on it, or however that works.
Yeah, exactly.
Contract on it. You can.
Yep.
You just need the sheep and somewhere to basically to overwinter them.
Yep.
Is that probably the biggest hurdle, is having getting the sheep is one thing, but having some place to have them be from November till April.
Yeah, but even that, I wouldn't call, a super big hurdle, because there's so many vacant barn facilities all around the state.
That's true.
And which is sad, right?
Yeah.
But
That farm is gone under. Yeah, it's
exactly. But they can be easily retrofitted for sheep.
Yeah, because you guys use just an old dairy tie stall barn. It's
Yep,
really nice inside. It's big. It's
the
sheep really do well in there, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Part. Yeah, especially this year. So we have right now 250 Katahdin ewes that are all lambing. They started yesterday.
This is when the fun really starts, right?
Exactly. So this is like the 2 months of the year where you don't sleep.
That's why I'm glad we got this in right at the beginning.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So yeah, but the barn works great. We figured out a really nice way to, take the tie stalls or the beds. Like, what is that part called between the rails? The tie stall? Is it a stall?
Yeah, it's just a bed.
Yeah,
it's elevated. Exactly. Then you got they still have the gutter in there, and then there's an alley, and then a gutter, and then another bed. Yeah, just a bed.
Yeah, and we figured out to make jugs out of the beds, I guess. So each little stall or bed department for one cow is now a jug for a sheep and its lamb or lambs, right? So you get, like, once they lamb, you gate them off for like 12 or 25 hours, and 24 hours, and we figured out a good way, to retrofit that space into these jugs for So what I'm saying is it works really well to make it work for sheep.
So you'll have the sheep with its lambs will stay together, because in times past I've gone, I think it was last year, 2 years ago, they were all just one big group.
Mm-hmm. So you have them together as a group as pregnant sheep, and then they lamb one after the other. So you plug the mom and its lamb or lambs, and you gate them off separately in a little pen that's maybe 4 by 5 feet for 12 to 24 hours. And that's called a jug. You do that to facilitate bonding. Okay. So that they just get to spend time with their lambs for a little bit and really get to know them, and they figure out, this is mine.
This is
And then once you've done that for a little bit, they can go in a group pen, and then eventually they're all together running around.
God, it's so if you've never seen lambs, as many lambs as you guys have with the ewes, it's so funny to watch them run back. The best is when the ewes just kind of laying or sleeping, and then her lamb jumps on top of her. Yeah. They're cute little things.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yep. Yeah, they're great. I like them. They're good. Yeah. And we've been actually, so far it's been working out really great. I don't want to jinx it, I'm careful about saying how well it's going, because then tomorrow I walk in the barn and I'm confronted with disaster. So
mentally be happy, but don't
exactly.
Don't jinx yourself, knock on wood.
Yeah.
So it's so you'll have 250 ewes, lamb, and then once it hits springtime, will all those ewes go out, or will the lambs go with them, or do you hold the lambs back? What's kind of once it starts grazing? So
we don't like grazing mature ewes with lambs. Why? Parasites, right? So not so much a problem in cows, but a huge problem in small ruminants. So if they're grazed together, what happens is that the ewes sort of dispense their parasite load, and the lambs pick it up. Okay. Right, and so you harm average daily gains, you stunt them, not great. So we wean before we go to pasture, and then everyone who's going to be sold stays back at the barn, maybe on grain or not, depending on where they go. And our replacement ewes, the ones that we keep, they go to a separate pasture where it's just them without mature animals. So that's how we navigate that. So in May 1st, it's all over. Right? There's weaning, and then we keep them separately. And the ewes go on solar sites with Lewis, and
he starts hauling them around all over New York. And,
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be really excited to tell you all about that.
Yeah, he's lot of travel. He's doing cool. I mean, I until you guys started doing this, I really knew. I mean, I've learned a lot just from when I see you guys talking about it. So it's pretty fascinating stuff. You know, just sheep in general, and
Yeah.
they're you know, you look at them and say, oh, they must be easy. But like you said, for 2 months, it's like they're probably they take care of themselves, but during lambing and all that, it's all day, every day.
That's true, but also, as I always like to say, you know, if you look at something like that and it looks easy, then that's probably because the person doing it put a lot of thought in and has quite a bit of skill, because it's not as easy as it looks, and you can make really big mistakes with sheep. Like, they're not, I don't know. I think there's a reason why not many sheep in the Northeast, why there's not many people that are into sheep in the Northeast, right? So there's parasite issues, there's all sorts of weird health issues, there's the nutritional issues. Bottom line, if you don't do it right, you're not going to be successful, right? And then sheep can become really, really annoying really quickly. And that starts with like simple things like putting up, you know, electronetting and making sure that it's really, that there's electricity on it. If there's none, they'll just walk away. Right?
They'll walk right
they
through it.
They just go. Yeah, they leave
no
you.
care
They're
in the
like,
world.
bye. No care in the world. And then once you've taught them that they can actually do that, it's going to take a long time to reteach them that they shouldn't be doing that.
So have a hot fence.
Have a hot fence. Yeah. Have a really long grouting rod and a really strong car battery. So it's, you know, just stuff like that.
Yeah. No, cows can be the same way. If they know that a fence is weak or anything like that, they'll just, you get them in and you leave, and then they're right back out.
Bye.
Yeah. And yeah, right across the road, we have some pasture, and it's high tensile now. It runs right along Lick Street, and it used to just be temporary. We'd build it every spring, take it down the fall. Well, keeping juice to it was a struggle sometimes, keeping it hot.
Yeah.
And you always knew when the battery had gone or the fencer stopped working, because someone would pull into the house and say your cows are out, or you look up the road and there's cows walking out on the road. And for people who don't know what this road is like, I'm right on a flat, essentially. There's a dip between my house and the farm, but besides that, it's flat, and you can see for ways. People go 70 miles an hour. We get tractor trailers, and thank God nothing ever happened. But we built that high tensile, and it's solved a lot of those issues.
Yeah. Changed your life. Yeah, for sure. I mean, those are the phone calls you don't want to get.
My mom and dad tell me stories about when I was younger, and they had police. Maybe I was in college. I don't think I might have been in college. And the police showed up, and they were banging on the door, and they were, you know, where my parents' room is, where the front door is, basically the opposite side of the house. So they had to call their house. Yeah. And they picked up, your cows are out. No, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, those there. But yeah, keep them in.
Yeah, that's right. We had Zach, one of our guardian dogs. He really likes exploring. So if he gets a chance, he walks off as well, hops a fence or digs a hole underneath a fence or whatever. It's challenging to keep him in. And he just goes and wanders the perimeter. And I think last summer, same thing, right? Like, we get a phone call. Oh, your dog is, you know, across the road on the neighbor's property. It's just nerve-wracking.
Is that, yeah.
Like,
he's a big dog.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's really nice, you know. He doesn't bite people or anything. He just explores and, you know, maybe figures out where all the predators live or sniffs out. And I don't know what he's doing, but he's not, you know, aggressive, but still you get like a heart attack. Like, God.
Yeah. He's like you say, he's probably looking for whatever dangers are out there. He's trying to
exactly scoping out everything, wandering the perimeters. Yeah. I think Cortland introduced a new rule that you have to pay quite a lot of money if your animals wander off. There's like a new rule.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember seeing the paper. That's kind of,
Yeah.
it's like if your animals get out, you can get fined. It's like,
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
99% of farmers don't want their animals to get out. It's not like it's not like you're just opening the gate, go at it, sheep. Like that's such a stupid rule.
I know.
It's like,
I agree. I'm like, why?
it's, sure, some people probably don't maintain their fence, but the majority of people they don't want their animals in the road.
Yeah, exactly. And then, if you have folks that maybe don't maintain their fence as it should be, then there's reasons for that. Like maybe they're just getting older, right? So you want to punish someone? It's just weird.
Yeah, I think that's a stupid rule. It's kind of doesn't. Yeah. Hopefully, like you said, you have nice hot fences, and because you have some, what is there, 50 acres or so at the farm where you guys?
I think it's 60 acres. Yeah.
And you graze acres. That.
Yep.
Off.
Yeah, but that's high tensile, and that's not effective for sheep. They just duck underneath it.
Yeah, it's too high. Yeah. Good for cows.
So, yeah. So we have to put up. When I say we, I mean Lewis. I should be honest.
Lewis does it all.
Yeah, he does the fencing. I mean, I work too, right? I'm at Cornell, so
yeah.
I guess it's fair. But so I shouldn't say we. Lewis puts up electronetting, to keep him in. Yeah. So we graze that, I think, 3 times per year. So we start there in May and then come back in end of June, maybe, and then again in fall.
If you had to give advice to someone who wanted to get into sheep, like just
do it.
Just do it.
And be really sincere about it, of course, and, read up on it, talk to people. Always get in touch with other people and keep it simple. Like, just keep it simple.
Get some sheep, get a fence. Yes. Don't do all the crazy bells and what, just basic. No. The basics. Yeah, exactly. Are there groups that you guys like work with or communicate with that, like, I'm trying to, you have like the dairy, groups and stuff. I don't know if there's any sort of grazing.
Yeah, so it's starting right now. So first we have the American Solar Grazing Association, or ASGA. That takes care of all the folks who are grazing solar sites or who are interested in that, right? So ASGA. And then there is the Cornell Sheep Program, which I'm part of. And we do a lot of stuff. We have, I think, 4 websites that cover a broad array of things. The general website, just, Cornell Sheep Program. Then we have a parasite website, a dairy website, and a grazing website. So there's lots of information. And we also have a listserv where we connect all sorts of small ruminant people throughout the country, actually.
So there's a lot of resources for someone if they really want to get up and running.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh. But best advice, keep it simple and just do it. Get your first flock, pick good genetics that you really like, a breed that you really like, sheep that are healthy, and then just go, take it slow. Get advice as you go.
Cool.
Yeah.
You want to go through some of the pictures you got?
Yeah.
All right,
sure.
Yeah. Here, we'll switch over to, let's see. Here we go. These are some photos that Niko sent to me, and I think of Germany and some of your.
The first 3 are from Germany. Yeah. So this is what I saw throughout my apprenticeship there in Germany for 5 years. No, that's not right. 3 years. Lots of sheep. Those are, I think, 1,100 right there. Merinos, meat sheep, in good condition, if I look at them right now, right? Yeah. So as you can see, a little bit of like hilly country, not really mountainous, but hilly. Yeah.
Basically, like it's either flat or it's hill, not really much in between. That just from what the picture looks like.
Yeah, that's right.
It's pretty though.
Cool. Yeah, it's super pretty.
There's a couple goats in there too.
Yeah.
Look at that
You need
right
goats.
There.
If you have sheep and you have a certain flock size, you need goats. Not many, but some.
Is that just
to make you appreciate,
Oh, okay.
the good days.
The goats are really they're really dumb, aren't they? Or they're troublemakers.
They're troublemakers. Exactly.
They'll jump and
Yeah.
yeah.
They jump. They sleep. Their preferred place to sleep is feeders. On the sheep feed, right? They find every opening. If you have an opening in your barn, a gate is open or whatever, they'll go through it. They'll find it, like within seconds too. Yeah. So.
Do they have that? Do the goats have the herding instinct like the sheep as much, or the goats are more kind of they're more independent and
they wander. Yeah, they wander. They stay in their little herds, so they wander off together, but they wander. Yeah.
Like you said, you throw some of them in there, and you're like, well, at least I don't have a whole flock of these idiots.
Exactly. I shouldn't say this, but I that's how we have 3. I really love them, but they're a pain in the butt.
Oh, you guys do have 3 goats?
Yeah, 3. Yeah.
Just keep it like what one sheep, one goat to every 100 sheep.
Yeah, something like that. Actually,
okay.
Yeah, I feel that makes sense. Yeah, and that's sort of right. 3 dogs, a couple of leashes, and then that's what you do. This illustrates very well what you do. You just stand like the entire day from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. You just watch them graze and move them from one patch of grass to the next. Yeah.
Are you looking for anything when you're watching them? Or
yeah, you look for your dogs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're basically the sheep take care of themselves. You're you're overseeing the fence.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then you, of course, if you have 1,100 in one flock, you're gonna have lame sheep. You're gonna have sick sheep. You're gonna have, I don't know, someone who got some brush caught in their wool or whatever, like little things that occur. So you watch for those, so that you can then during the midday break or something catch those sheep, treat them, trim their feet, do whatever you need to do. So you're basically constantly also overseeing the health of the flock. Yeah, that's what you do.
Are sheep once they get to kind of know you're the sheep herder that they'll let you come up to them? Are they pretty skittish at first? Or
they're always skittish. Okay. They're not tame at all. You have every once in a while you have a tame sheep. Maybe you bottle raised it and kept it, so then it comes up to you. But usually they're really feral. Okay. Or they don't come up to you. Yeah. Yeah. But it's not like a lazy job, right? So I didn't mean you just stand there and watch them. It's actually really it challenges you, right?
Yeah.
So first off, you're outside. Doesn't matter how warm or cold it is. You're just like outside, so it's hard work. And you have to pay a lot of attention because, as I said, vegetable gardens, cornfields, roads, etc.
Yeah, and like you said, sometimes you can make it look easy, but it's because you got your ducks in a row. You know your herd and you know what to look for.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and that's with lambs. Same thing. I think in that picture we were walking to the water downhill. That's why I'm behind them. Usually I'd be up front. So usually you basically pull them behind you. So that's not really accurate. But there we were going to where they sleep at night in their little fenced paddock. So they knew the way and the water was down there. So they just walked and I followed them.
Is there water in these paddocks, or are they basically good to go all day and they just water up at night and overnight?
Yeah. Or depends, right? Depends on how you structure your day. Sometimes you go to the water midday, once a day.
Okay.
And then, so no, the water's not in their paddock. So you build that paddock every day. Okay. So it's a new paddock every day.
Okay, yeah,
so you just move that, right? Because if they sleep in it, if you can imagine if you have like, I don't know, half an acre paddock and you have 1,100 sheep in there, in the morning when you get there, it's full of poop. Yeah. So you want to take that fencing down and you want to put up another one right next to it.
Okay.
Yeah. Huh. Exactly. Yeah, and this is Cornell. So this is our little Cornell sheep dairy. Looks very different right now. That was the first iteration. Wooden platform. We didn't sell the milk. Now we sell the milk. We didn't back then. So this was not grade A. that parlor wasn't grade A, right? It was just for research.
You built this parlor, didn't you?
Yeah,
It's
I
cool
designed it, and then we, like my PhD advisor and I built it together, but it's my design, and we're still milking with the same design, but we got it welded, custom welded.
Okay.
For grade A approval. So now we're selling the milk.
Cool.
Actually, we're selling the milk to Jesse Miller, who you know as well.
Yeah.
And their creamery in Pennsylvania.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and they make they make a cheese out of it that's called Niko.
How fitting.
Yeah, I'm kind, like obviously it's kind of makes me proud.
That's cool. I didn't know. So they're now, because all their cheese before was just dairy cow. So is this their first sheep?
It's a blend. So they blend it with Jersey milk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So how does, if you don't mind me asking,
No.
you guys bucket it, and then what do you have, a little tank, and do they come up, or do you ship it? How do you?
So right now we have a bulk tank, 30 gallons. Yep, 30 gallons. And once that's full, usually after 2 days, we fill that up. Then we bag it and we freeze it.
Okay.
And then Jesse comes up and picks it up frozen in a freezer.
Oh.
So he's got like a freezer on the truck bed.
Okay.
And we just, move the bags from our freezer to their freezer, and then he... Yep.
I'll have to catch him sometime when he comes up. I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah. Well, right now, we're not milking.
Okay.
Yeah, we teach a different sheep class right now on campus. It's a meat sheep class, so we need the space. So
Okay.
we're milking again in fall, so then, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then these are all milking. So how do you get them up?
That blue ramp there. So it's just like,
okay.
It's just a ramp, and they walk up the ramp and lock into the headlocks there. So they're all, locked in the headlocks. You can't really see it. Yeah. And then once you're done, you open the headlock, and then they walk back down the same ramp.
Okay.
Where they came from.
Throw some grain down there to entice them in.
Yeah, exactly. They're pretty good about it. Like maybe takes 10 times, and then they know what they're doing. Oh, I want to say that sheep are not dumb. Sheep are really not dumb. Not everyone. Many people, a lot of the time say sheep are so dumb. They're not dumb.
Tell us, Niko.
It's like, yeah, exactly. Now I have this platform where I can scream it out in the world.
Yeah. Let us all know.
Yeah, no, they're really not dumb.
Yeah.
They know their stuff. They know their schedules. They know a lot, and you just got to spend a lot of time with them. And then if you spend a lot of time with them, you can appreciate that they're actually quite smart.
They're routine oriented then.
Super routine oriented.
Okay.
I mean, that's important. I mean, that's the same with cows too. Right?
Yeah.
They
very
love
routine.
their routine.
Yeah.
Horses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's right now. That's our solar grazing study flock. 150 ewes, just walking between panels casually. I think here we brought them from one array to the next array, so that's how it looks like when we trail with them. So that little trailing or that little journey, from one array to the next array takes about 45 minutes. We just walk them, and in the front there, that's Jeff.
Right up there.
Way up there, yeah. And he's the sheep know him very well. He works at the Cornell teaching barn, and he just talks to them, and sort of whistles at them, and then the sheep follow him. It's great.
That makes it easy.
Yeah.
What's all the
colors?
Just the IDs?
So that's the grazing densities.
Okay.
So their sheep love to be in their social groups, right? They have friends and best friends, and sheep they don't really like. But if you group them together, you want them to stay together in that group, because if you tear them apart, they're gonna go looking for your friends, and there's always stress in the flock, and you want to obviously minimize stress and want them to feel really comfortable, right? So we always keep them in the same groups. And here we just paint each group and each grazing density with the same color. And then after we move them to the next array, we just sort them.
Okay.
They go through a little gate area, and then we just, red goes here, blue goes there, red and blue goes there, whatever. Yep.
Huh.
So that's for their benefit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't know that they're social. I know cows are social, but
Yeah.
they'll go looking for
Oh,
their
yeah.
buddies on.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets quite loud.
Oh,
So they're yelling for them.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's our flock at home. Our 250 Catan ewes. Next year it's going to be 400.
Wow.
So there. Yeah. The flock's growing fast. That was last fall, I think.
Was this at a solar site or is this
No,
at home?
that's at home.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just one of the hay fields at home that we graze in fall.
How do they do with the dry weather?
Very well. So dry weather means no parasites.
Okay.
Parasites thrive in rain and lush grass. So in the drought, they're made for that.
So even though it wasn't, you might not have had the forage cover. They did fine. Great.
Yeah.
So you have enough acreage where you can rotate them around and
Yeah.
give them enough for you.
Yeah. And so 2 years ago, Louis and I went to Germany to visit my parents, of course, but then also the farm where I used to work at, and they had a real drought. There was nothing growing. It was brown everywhere. It looked like a savanna or in the desert, right? Like color scheme wise. And we visited my former boss, and he was, herding the same amount of sheep through the same country, maybe a little bit faster than usual, but not really. And they just ate everything. Like they found every last piece of green and every, not quite burned piece of grass, and they ate it, and they actually looked really, really well. And that was, obviously they don't have to make milk in summer, right? So they're not cows.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you aren't, they're just maintaining.
Yeah, exactly.
Can they overgraze if it gets too?
Yeah.
I've always
totally.
heard sheep can be overgrazers big time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that can't happen.
Yeah.
You got to be really careful. I mean, overgrazed pasture by sheep. I mean, same with cows too, like both, right? You just got to keep them moving. You can do real, great harm to your
root systems
fields.
and all. Yeah.
It's not great.
Hammers the plant.
Yeah, it does.
That's all the pictures.
Yeah, that's all the pictures.
Go back to. There we go. So anyway, I guess I always ask this question: is what would you do if you didn't do sheep?
Oh my god!
Have you ever thought about that? Would you become a lawyer?
No, I don't think so. I'm just not. No, it's not me. So sometimes when Louis and I watch, a show, it's like criminal investigation show or something, I always know who killed or who is the murderer, right? So, and then we always say I should have became a detective and I would have been really, really good at that. So maybe that.
All right.
But not really. I don't know. I'm really happy with sheep.
That's good. Hey.
Yeah.
You love what you do.
Yeah, I do. But okay, I have a question for you because I'm really curious.
Yeah, go.
How did you learn all? So I've been, sitting here on my first podcast watching Eric handle this pretty advanced and fancy looking computer system. And I've just been wondering, how did you learn all that? Did you Google a bunch? How did you pick that particular software? And how did you?
So yeah, when I started this in early December.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably started looking into how to do this in November. I spent probably a good month of researching, getting equipment. So, getting the equipment's the easy part. The mics, the stands, headphones, the mixer, the Focusrite. If anyone wants to do podcasting, get like a Focusrite where you can plug in. It's I can't think of the actual word of what the system is, but it's basically like you can plug in your mics into it. Makes your life a lot easier. Software wise, that one, YouTube. So I'll say YouTube was my savior on all of this.
Okay.
I would just go on YouTube, like how to start a podcast, and then people would, how to start, there's an audio. I knew I wanted to have videos, and how do you start a video podcast? And the software I use, it's free. Anyone can download it. It's called OBS. It's just called. Does it have an actual? It's just like OBS. I don't think there's anything else. OBS Studio. It's called OBS Studio, And the nice part is people use it to live stream. So you could live stream with this program. And like I said, it's free to download. It's pretty simple to use. Or if you want to learn how to use it, I would Google or YouTube how to use OBS Studio.
Yeah.
And I can use my phone as a camera and just use a Wi-Fi to connect it to the program. Use the camera right off my phone.
Yeah.
Hook up whatever audio I want to this program. It's really pretty intuitive and easy to use, and a lot was trial and error. I spent like days of wanting to rip my hair out and throw my computer at a wall because it wasn't working the way I wanted to. And then that's when I bought the Focusrite.
Oh.
This guy made my life way easier.
So what does it do?
So it's basically like a mixer. Like I hook in your mic and my mic, and then I can individually control like the gain.
Okay. Gotcha.
And the sound, and then that just has one cord that plugs directly into my computer. And then it's just like streamlined. Where before I was trying to hook microphones into my computer USB, and it didn't want to work, especially with the headphones. I wanted to have headphones where you can plug your headphones right into this and you and I can hear it. I just have a splitter, and our headphones are hooked up to a splitter, which are hooked into the Focusrite, where I was trying to hook headphones into the mics with USB, and I could hear myself, but you wouldn't be able to hear me, and I couldn't hear you. And it was really frustrating. So it was a lot of trial and error, a lot of YouTube.
So who did you practice? Like, did you have, a practice guest, or was it just you trying to simulate?
So there was a lot of days where if you came in here for like when I was getting breakfast, I would eat quick, and then I would spend like another 30 minutes of just like my table was full of microphones and wires, and I'm like talking. And then I eventually had my brother and sister-in-law, who I had on a couple weeks ago, and my other brother come over, and we kind of did like a dry run where we just got everything hooked up and saw that it worked. And then like later that day, I had Beck over. Like I had planned Tyler to come, and I had this deadline of, I mean, granted, if it didn't work, Tyler wasn't gonna, he wasn't gonna get upset, but it was a lot of trial and error. It's fun. Now that I can do it, it's easy. Like I could do this. I could have this on YouTube in an hour. I mean, it takes longer for me to upload it than it would to put it all together, because this just records it, and then I don't even edit it unless I really have to. The only down part about OBS is you can't edit the audio quality. So
so if it sucks, it sucks.
Yeah, you can't. There's no way there's no way I know of how to like boost the quality of the audio. Like if you use, there's actual audio programs called Audacity, where we could just record just our sound. There'd be no camera, and you can record your mic and my mic on two separate tracks, and then we record it, and we're done. I could edit individually. So if you're talking quieter, I could boost your sound way up.
Okay, gotcha.
So it it was a fun but frustrating experience.
Yeah, but I mean, right now it looks simple, right? There's 2 microphones, there's 2 lamps that we didn't end up using.
Yeah, the 2 lights.
Lights, yeah.
Usually I use for at night, help brighten stuff up. Just literally my phone camera. Anyone can do it.
Yeah, it's great.
It's
awesome.
Yeah, it's
really cool.
I said frustrating but fun. Yeah. There's a little bit of investment with, depends on how much,
you want to spend.
But it's, I'm glad it's one of those things where it's like, man, do I really want to pay this much for that Focusrite? And it's like, once you get it, it's like, I'm glad I spent every penny on that. It was worth it.
Yeah. And who's your, so you've, how many people have you interviewed now? Like 8?
I think you're number 9.
9, yeah. So who's your dream guest?
Wow.
Like who? Okay. let's do like a couple dream guests, right? Like a achievable dream guest, like someone that could actually happen, and then like someone that's not very likely to happen. I'm so curious.
Boy, I never actually even thought about that because
okay.
it's so realistic. I guess I'll start with unrealistic. That one would probably be easier.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really fun to maybe not have them on mine, but to, I think everyone like the Joe Rogan. That'd be so cool to be on.
Right.
That's kind of a one that I think he's inspired a lot of people to start this.
Yeah, that's true for sure.
But I don't know. I don't think he'd ever come on this, but if I ever got the opportunity, which
to go there,
which I think is basically, I'm more likely to get struck by lightning.
Well, you never know,
But no, that'd be a cool one.
Know.
Realistic, probably. I guess someone, prominent in like the agricultural industry. So I, not saying anyone specifically, but someone like you have like a Temple. What's her name? Is it Temple? Temple
Grandin.
Yeah, someone like that who's like.
Oh, she would be cool.
Really accomplished in agriculture, done a lot of cool things. Someone that like that who you get on, and it's like they have an entire lifetime of achievements and experience that you could ask about. I think someone like that would be really cool.
Yeah, that's true.
That might be an unrealistic, but I think it depends on if I think it's the sort of thing where the right person who knows the right person.
Yeah, and you grow your audience, right? And then, anything can happen if you get like, I guess, followers. Yeah.
You never know. The right person listens, I guess. But I honestly, it's a lot of fun just having people on who I know, and are cool to have people on that I don't really know eventually. But for now, it's just fun to have friends on, and
for sure.
It's just
and they're great to listen to as well, right? Like if you know the people. That are on here, right? And you just listen and you're like, oh, that's cool. That's a neat little detail that I had no idea about, and it's great.
Well, that's what I found. I've learned stuff about people that I thought I knew really well, and it's like, wow, I didn't know that about you. So it's
that's cool.
It's always been something new every time I do it.
Great, that's awesome. That's great.
But anything else? Or I'm trying to think if there's anything else to talk about. I think we hit a lot of
sheep topics for sure.
Yeah. I'll get Lewis in here, and we'll
you should talk all solar grazing. That's right. And farm economic stuff, and
because my dad was showing me today on you guys are in the American agriculturalist. Yeah, he showed me on his phone. He's like, hey, it's Lewis and Niko. And there's a picture of you guys. I'm like, oh, cool. I'll have to read it. You guys have been in a lot of stuff lately. So pioneering the way.
Yeah, I guess. So that's funny. So like the guy who wrote the article, it was really nice. It was a great visit. He came by the farm, and we were just doing chores, or was it before chores? I don't remember. And he spent, I think, 2 hours with us, and it was really cold, right? And then he took that picture, and Lewis and I both looked at it, and we were like, oh my God. Oh no. We should have dressed up better, but who cares? It's all right.
It's all farmers. They don't care. Yeah. Good company.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Well, anyway, thanks for coming on, Niko.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for giving me a platform to just talk about myself.
Yeah. No, that's I've learned a lot of things, even more about sheep. So I hope people listening also learn a lot. So
and again, maybe that's a good way to conclude from my side. For anyone wanting to get into sheep, the Cornell sheep program has ample resources, and even if the resource can't be found online in an apparent way, there can always be like written an email and ask for help, and there's always going to be someone replying, and putting people together with the right people. So if you want to get into sheep, if you have sheep questions, email away,
and we'll help.
Do you guys have a Facebook or Instagram for your?
Yes.
If you want to put, if you don't, that's fine.
No, that's fine. We have a Facebook that's not run by me. That's run by Mike, and that's just a Cornell sheep program. And then we have an Instagram where our students actually post pictures. So that's also not run by us. It's just our students, and they post their pictures there, and that's Cornell Pro Sheep.
Okay.
Yep. That's it.
Cool. Well, Niko, thank you.
Eric, thank you.
And I guess thanks everyone for watching, and I'll catch y'all in the next episode.
Bye.